Jamaica. Let's get moving again. Season 2 of the Ministry of Health and Wellness Jamaica Move series is here. Join us Wednesdays at 5 a.m. and Saturdays at 8 a.m. right here on CVM TV. Let's get moving.
Make a move now.
Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
So what's in the affidavit filed by the Prime Minister to support his application for judicial review into the report tabled by the Integrity Commission, well, prepared by the Integrity Commission and tabled in Parliament concerning his statutory declarations? Those are the questions we will answer here on Lead Story today. We'll get the perspective of eminent counsel on whether the grounds that the Prime Minister's case is built on is indeed a solid foundation from which to proceed. Lead Story starts now here on CVM TV. Now, even if you've been under a rock, the earthworm that shares that space with you would have come to tell you that there is an issue concerning the Prime Minister's statutory declarations and that the Integrity Commission prepared reports which it submitted to Parliament and which have been tabled in Parliament. Those reports have been the subject of much public discussion for several days now. You'd also have known that the Prime Minister has sought through his attorneys, has filed an application seeking judicial review at the Supreme Court into aspects of the report, contending that the report ought not to have been tabled. The Prime Minister has also said in the affidavit supporting that application for judicial review that, quote, "The delay in examining my 2021, 2022 and the 2023 declarations has created a cloud over me that is personal to me and affects my interests significantly." That's just a small part of the plinth on which the Prime Minister has built this application for judicial review and which he has crafted an affidavit to support. Today on the program, I'll speak with eminent counsel Bert Samuels. You know him very well, as I seek some perspective on your behalf as to what the Prime Minister's lawyers are claiming and whether or not, given what we saw in the report, it is indeed a sound basis on which to proceed to seek some repair for what the Prime Minister believes is injury to his reputation. Without further ado, I introduce Bert Samuels to the discussion. Good evening, sir. All of a sudden, I'm not hearing you. Did you mute me?
Sorry, you're...
Hearing you loud and clear now. So let me go again. Good evening.
Good evening, I've heard you.
Excellent. All right, you're Bert. Bert Samuels, the Prime Minister's application seeking judicial review and, of course, the supporting affidavit. In your estimation, from your professional perspective, does he have a sound enough basis to go forward with what he's asking the court to provide him with?
Well, without wanting to pronounce on what the court should be deciding too much, any inferior tribunals, that's what we call it, so that the court has a right to examine the decisions of inferior tribunals. Here it is the Integrity Commission. So the Supreme Court has an advisory and controls inferior tribunal, and you apply to the court for administrative orders to be granted. So yes, it would pass the test that the Integrity Commission is indeed an inferior tribunal. Secondly, that the Supreme Court has the power and the jurisdiction to examine its conduct and its behavior. So yes, the application is well made.
All right. I'm happy I have you for many reasons. One of them is this. For the benefit of my audience, I want some fundamental explanations because it makes no sense we have these conversations and leave the majority of our audience behind. People have been using synonyms to discuss what's happening here. People say the Prime Minister has sued the Integrity Commission. Other people have stuck to the letter of what the filing says, seeking judicial review. What is judicial review and how is it different from a lawsuit, if at all?
Oh, yes, and then lawsuits are not necessarily words used by lawyers. He has brought the matter to the court so that when a judicial review is when a lower tribunal, that is lower than a court, has done anything in relation to the rights of a citizen, that citizen can come before the court to seek leave. In other words, there are two stages. You seek leave, which is getting permission to proceed to another court to hear the matter. And therefore, the Prime Minister has looked at the Integrity Commission law. And interestingly, although he's a member of the legislature, he's trying to say that the Integrity Commission law itself is faulty. The law passed by Parliament has defects, and it has breached his constitutional right, among several other rights. So it to me is showing in some respects what the separation of power is all about. A member of the legislature, one arm of government, is going to test by way of the courts another arm of government whether that Integrity Commission and its powers breach his right to fair hearings. And that becomes very, very interesting. It is exemplary of the rule of law that all citizens, be you Prime Minister, be you a member of the legislature, if you are affected by a legislation giving powers to an inferior tribunal, the Integrity Commission, you can challenge the law in a court of law.
One more question about context setting, but that will come after this break, and then I'll ask you some things about the matter without taking it too deep, because of course this matter is now before the court of law. Bert Samuels is with me as we talk about the filing by the Prime Minister's attorneys on his behalf, seeking judicial review into aspects of that Integrity Commission report concerning his statutory declarations. More on Lead Story after these.
Father, what you doing again?
Writing the opera Isaiah.
Isaiah?
Jamaican opera, master.
Jamaican opera?
Yes. It's about the greatest of prophets.
When is it going to be?
5th and 6th of October.
One
weekend only.
Where can I get my ticket?
You have to check social media, master.
Social media?
Social media.
But Father, you got high-tech, man.
Yeah, man.
Isaiah, October 5 and 6 at the National Arena. 1 weekend only. Don't you miss it.
Come rise with sunrise this Thursday. This is us. We go inside Hollywood with Sterling K. Brown, Sandra Oakley, and Ryan Michelle Bathe. It's the business of being an actor. From big names in showbiz to names that you need to look out for. Kids Unfiltered spotlights the winners of the JCDC Marcus Garvey Awards for Excellence in the Performing Arts. We then move from the big screen to the small details. Carlton helps us to decode our paycheck. You've never seen a sunrise quite like this.
One of the most senior attorneys and highly respected attorneys in the country for the past many years, Bert Samuels, is with me as we try to make some sense and give you a greater understanding of what's at play here as the Prime Minister moves to the court to, he says, defend his reputation against the findings contained in that Integrity Commission report concerning his statutory declarations. Again, I quote him as saying that the delay in examining his 2021, 2022, 2023 declarations has created a cloud over him that is personal to him and affects his interests significantly. Now, Bert Samuels, many people's ears perked up when they heard that the Prime Minister, the most senior politician in the country and the leader of the Parliament, you could say, well, chief legislator then if you want to call it that, was now going to the courts to challenge legislation. And people immediately had a view because it just doesn't make sense. How, in terms of precedent, how often has this happened in this country in the past or elsewhere in the Commonwealth?
Very good question. Now, we have what is called a constitutional democracy. That is, the Constitution is it prevails over law. So in England, you can't challenge a law that it is unconstitutional, because in England, the parliament is supreme. In Jamaica, the constitution is supreme. And therefore, parliament can pass a law like the NIDS legislation and the courts strike it down. That could never happen under the British constitutional arrangement. So yes, it is interesting that the law has been properly passed. No one can say it didn't get the support of the parliament when it was passed, but nonetheless, any citizen, and that is why Mr. Robinson, a parliamentarian, challenged the NIDS legislation and successfully did it and had a court saying, Parliament is wrong to have passed that law. Now, interestingly, the head of the legislature, as you said, the Prime Minister, is now challenging a law passed when he was a parliamentarian. And it is now up for grabs whether the court would say, yes, there are defects in that law. The law does not allow the citizen enough rights, and they can quash the law. They can set it aside. Or another relief that he's seeking is that Parliament, the Integrity Commission, is not following the rules set out in that legislation. They are breaching the legislation because they are bringing matters to Parliament, having tabled it. They are continuing not to bring closure to it. Because what the Prime Minister is trying to say, based on the report tabled in the Parliament, the matter should be over. It should not continue and go for further investigation and the referral to any other body to, as it were, investigate matters in that report tabled in Parliament, is that the Commission is going outside of its remit. And therefore, that's the challenge to it.
Where the issue of confirmation bias is concerned, that something can loom large in a publication without being mentioned ad nauseum. And in my view, confirmation bias looms large in what is at play here. Can you, for the benefit of my viewers again, break down what confirmation bias is, and it is something that the Holness legal team is asserting that their client, Andrew Holness, is a victim of?
Yes, so listen, and there's no tribunal can act in a biased way. In other words, what they're saying is the report does not suggest that he has done anything wrong. And therefore, it has been tabled in Parliament. Why are you now moving from having it tabled and going elsewhere, so that you are now putting your minds in a direction which suggests that you're not satisfied with your own report, that you want another agency to look at it to search further? So as we've said, bias is something that once a court feels that an inferior tribunal is acting in a biased way towards a citizen. In other words, if the court finds that having tabled it, it should be the end of the matter, then they're going to say that to take it elsewhere is a show of bias.
All right. Insofar as the Integrity Commission is concerned, Bert Samuels, and the act that supports its work, the legislation, can the Integrity Commission ask any question of anyone, regardless of how that question relates to the subject matter under disposal?
Are you talking about during the investigations?
I'm talking about, so for instance, in this case where they say Holness is under investigation for illicit enrichment, can they, but it's for a period, it has to be for a defined period because it can't be illicit enrichment forever.
Particular year.
Yes. Can they ask any question in relation to anything so far as they can link it to the investigation that is happening for the defined period?
Right, yeah, they're at large to ask any question, and they can ask for further clarifications. So if you tell them that you got the funds from X institution, they can go to that institution and pursue your arguments. Whatever you've said can be pursued to verify whether it is true or not. It has huge and wide powers for public servants.
And are you compelled to answer every question asked of you, or can you reasonably say, this question you're asking, in my view, has nothing to do with the matter under consideration? Is that a right you have as the person who is subject of the investigation?
Well, you can refuse to answer, but there can be adverse findings based on your refusal to answer. If you refuse to take a breathalyzer, the law says then you can't rely on your refusal to be acquitted. So that's the same situation here. If you refuse to answer, and very often we tell our clients, do not answer that question because you have a presumption of innocence. But a refusal to answer in certain circumstances can lead to an adverse finding against you. Why are you not prepared to cooperate?
Hear you on that. Let's take another break and come right back with more. This is Lead Story here on CVM TV.
Come rise with sunrise this Thursday. This is us. We go inside Hollywood with Sterling K. Brown, Sandra Oakley, and Ryan Michelle Bathe. It's the business of being an actor. From big names in showbiz to names that you need to look out for. Kids Unfiltered spotlights the winners of the JCDC Marcus Garvey Awards for Excellence in the Performing Arts. We then move from the big screen to the small details. Carlton helps us to decode our paycheck. You've never seen a sunrise quite like this.
The time by Grace. Taste that moves you is
6:45.
Father, what you doing again?
Writing the opera Isaiah.
Isaiah.
Jamaican opera, master.
Jamaican opera?
Yes. It's about the greatest of prophets.
When is it going to be?
5th and 6th of October.
One
weekend only.
Where can I get my ticket?
You have to check social media, master.
Social media?
Social media.
What, Father, you gone high-tech, man?
Yeah, man.
Isaiah, October 5 and 6 at the National Arena. 1 weekend only. Don't you miss it.
Hi everyone, my name is Kurt Dunn.
Greetings from Kali's Kelly Yoga.
Hey, it's Travin Morrison, and I am your National Physical Activity Specialist. And it's time to make a move.
Jamaica. Let's get moving again. Season 2 of the Ministry of Health and Wellness Jamaica Move series is here. Join us Wednesdays at 5 a.m. and Saturdays at 8 a.m. right here on CVM TV. Let's get moving.
Make a move now.
Welcome back to Lead Story here on CVM TV. So what we are doing here is just looking at some definitions and some explanations to allow you, the viewer, to better understand the issues at play. That way, you are in the best position to make up your mind about the events as they are unfolding. And so you won't be spoon-fed by anybody, either side, with a persuasive argument. It is that you understand what is at play and you can make up your own minds. As well, I can imagine people saying, well, why are you not going into the details of the report? I mean, I could not go into the details of the report with Bert Samuels because he, more than many, knows that something in front of the courts, you don't discuss, you don't try it in public, you don't just throw around opinions willy-nilly about it. You have to be very careful, and that is why we are doing an explainer so you can understand, and we've asked him to volunteer his time in that regard. Bert Samuels, let me go again. This issue concerning procedural fairness and breach of natural justice. What is this natural justice, and what course does it take?
Oh, natural justice is a huge plank in the question of fairness. A person has a right to a fair trial, a right to be heard by a tribunal which is fair to them, which has no biases, which makes no comments, which are judgmental prior to the findings, official findings. So natural justice is a huge point. And if you fail the test to apply natural justice, your decisions can be struck down. So if you succeed on that, Mr. Holness will be able to get the reliefs that he's seeking.
On the point now of procedural fairness, and if at all there's a relationship between procedural fairness and natural justice.
Yeah, now that's interesting. Procedural fairness means this. You may be doing all the right things as a commission, but if you don't follow the right procedure, then your decisions can be struck down. So procedural fairness has nothing to do with the substance of the issue. It is that, for example, if you give the person a right to a hearing, You may have a great case against me, but you failed to give me the right to a hearing. If you did not give me a disclosure of the material that you're relying on, there are several things that if you don't do it, it has nothing to do with the substance of the matter. But because you didn't follow the right procedure, then you're out.
All right. I want to just ask about something specific. If you can't answer, I can understand, but I hope you can. Here's the thing. A central part of this matter, Bert Samuels, the Holness's lawyers, Henley Gibson Henley, are saying the Integrity Commission identified a specific sum of money that they say needed explanation because it was unexplained, it was greater than the value of his assets and his business dealings and so forth. It could not be explained. There's a specific sum. Well, Holness's lawyers say, but you did not tell us that you were looking at this specific sum and asked for information to explain where this sum came from. Is it fair in law or in a procedure such as the one attended to by the Integrity Commission to investigate something, identify a sum, but not tell the individual that this is the sum, explain this sum, but at the end of it all, you say, well, this is the sum we were actually probing what we asked for this and that, even though we never identified the sum as being the amount that we were looking at, if you understand that.
Yeah, as a criminal lawyer, I would use the criminal law to say that if you go to court, you must have a clear understanding of the charges against you. And if the charges are convoluted or they are not known to you, then you can cry that you have not been given a fair hearing because no one disclosed to you what you're facing. So every individual has a right to know what the allegation against them is, and that is the only time you can properly respond. So if it is that it is true that he did not and his mind was not directed to a particular sum of money, he may have a strong case. But then again, those are the facts. I'm not fully aware of them because law consists of two things. Very simple. The facts and the application of the law. So here it is. The facts are possibly in dispute. So the judge now has to determine in this hearing whether it is true or it is not true that he didn't get an opportunity to address that particular issue.
All right. Here's the last one for you now, Bert Samuels.
Yes.
The Integrity Commission is a commission of parliament, so it falls under the aegis of the government of Jamaica. The Prime Minister is the most senior politician in the land. His attorneys would be retained by him. Who will represent the Integrity Commission in a court showdown against the most senior politician in the land?
Well, the commission can retain any attorney it wishes to do. It has a right to go in search of lawyers to represent itself because the commission has rights and constitutional rights. And all the rights we have is the right to representation. So they can go out and retain private lawyers to represent them.
Right.
And I'm more sure that they wouldn't retain the Attorney General.
And that's where I was going, because that's a normal thing for people to think that the Attorney General's chambers now comes into play to assign attorneys.
No, and that's interesting because there's an obvious conflict of interest. If the Attorney General, who is virtually appointed by the Prime Minister, for want of a better word, description, would now be going against it. So this is a very interesting case where the lawyers cannot be who normally the lawyers would have been, the Attorney General.
From the time that we have been using an Integrity Commission, and it has gone through many phases, many guises, even a standalone entity, even when there was an Office of Contractor General doing big work through several contractors general. The fact is, has there ever been a case where a senior politician, certainly not a prime minister, but a senior politician, gone to court to seek relief against an entity like the Integrity Commission or the said Integrity Commission under its former guises? Has that happened in the country's history before?
I don't recall it happening, but I just want to make one point. The Prime Minister is like any other citizen, and he has a right to go to court. It shows that the democracy and the structure is working because anyone can approach a court. He's not higher or lower than anyone in the eyes of the court.
All right. Many people who would go online to read the filing submitted to the Supreme Court, Bert Samuels, would see certain things.
Gone viral. It's gone viral.
Gone viral. And they'd be wondering, what is an order of certiorari? Can you help us with that?
An order of certiorari, no, this is Latin phrases coming from our English history. It is an order to quash a decision, to take away the decision. So the word is to quash the decision. Our order of certiorari is to stop the decision. So if it succeeds, it means that all that the Integrity Commission found, their findings would be set aside and virtually thrown away.
Hear you on that. You have been very helpful this evening, Bert Samuels. I'm certain many people have advanced their understanding of the issues at play and are now in a position to follow the issue and make their minds up as it unfolds. Thank you very much.
No fees.
No fees, thankfully. I couldn't pay you. Bert Samuels there helping us with the heavy lifting where the Prime Minister's affidavit and the application for judicial review to the Supreme Court is concerned. Look, reputations are at stake. The Prime Minister has a huge reputation, and with him, so he goes, the way he goes is government follows. So it is his right, as Bert Samuels has said, like any other citizen, when it comes to these things, matters of law and reputation and fighting for relief, given that you believe that wrong has been done against you, the Prime Minister, like any other man or woman, has the same right to proceed to court to seek relief if he feels that he has been put upon, if he has been wronged. I believe that this move is sensible. This move is necessary because there are many well-thinking people thinking what kind of Prime Minister we have given the posture of the Integrity Commission's findings. And we know if we put an issue in a room and put 10 lawyers in there, those 10 lawyers are going to come up with 23 different opinions on that one issue. The 10 of them will produce 23 different opinions. And so the Integrity Commission has a view of its work. The Prime Minister has a view of the Integrity Commission's work. There is a natural clash between both those views. There is a lack of congruence between those two views. Those two views do not marry. And so the Prime Minister is saying, okay, let me go to a higher tribunal to seek relief, to have them interpret these actions and to see if they are siding with me in saying that I have been impartially dealt with, well, that has been dealt with partially, and that I have not been given the fairness and objectivity due in an investigation such as this. And I think it's the best place to settle it because you have 69 opinions every minute on this same issue. And frankly, I'm tired of all of them. I want to hear the court on this matter, to put this matter to bed. That's the story this evening. I make way for Caroline and Stephen with the